Welcome back to the next game in this series. We have Koenders versus Yhrem.
Yes, indeed. So that is yet again an inter-regional fight going on. Number 1 from Europe, or EMEA, like the region is called, against number 5 of Pacific. Once again, an interesting match.
Both both players kind of running a bulky team. You can see as you can see in the matchup screen right now, Koenders is running a very bulky team with like Gario, Adoroboros, Turok, and Naga. While Yurem is also kind of like he has definitely a very bulky team on his side as well. However, I think the playstyles, despite being very bulky offense kind of teams, their playstyles are slightly different.
Yeah, because if I read this Yhrem's team correctly, it's like a raid boss stylish team. So he wants to have a Tem on the field that gets stronger and stronger the longer it stays. Like typically the building blocks on the Pocus, which will probably also be running the 10% healing trait. Will probably like wants to stay as long on the battlefield as possible and be generally annoying, right?
Yeah, just deal damage, heal back up to whatever you take, and he has like it's not just Pocus, right? You have Shureen that gives like plenty of defensive buffs, and a lot of other items like that. So now,
all right, we're in the game already, and there's a first ban from Koenders that goes on the Chimerian.
I think the Chimerian ban is definitely a decent one if Koenders wants to use Gario to perhaps like deal a big dent into Yrem's team. As you can see, Tems like Scaravolt and Magma do not appreciate Gario at all. Is that what Koenders is planning here?
Yeah, it looks like it, and actually the Mashuk being first picked, and there's a Shween.
Shureen
I didn't expect that, I must say.
So here's the thing, right? Shureen blocks perfect jabs. So as Shureen Trade Guardian, it blocks most negative status conditions, and it also blocks like stat lowering effects onto its partner Pokemon. So if Koenders wants to use perfect jab onto that Scaravolt, he will not be able to get any defense debuffs onto Scaravolt, which will probably hurt Koenders in a way that Mushuk won't be able to get as much value. And that's one of the possible reasons that Shureen is up there, right? Scaravolt in general, a very strong Tem, but Koenders does have the counter pick in Gario, which is very scary against Scaravolt.
Yeah, because that soil it's a gravel bag Gario, so that soil steam times 4, maybe even double in on the Scaravolt is probably gonna kill it, right? And then
like we don't need defense debuffs if you're just gonna kill them turn 1, right? So Yhrem probably understands that and maybe has like a different like game plan, right? Maybe planning on swapping the Scaravolt out. Like you have Pocus that he picked immediately after. Is that to defeat the Mushuk maybe? As mental is like quite good into Mushuk, right? It is also half full Scaravolt. It's not the same one as Genesis.
Of course, it's awful. It was carrying Battle Pass, yeah. So
yes,
that's probably having to get out of there as soon as possible, because it's probably not going to live even with a +2 defense. And
here's the thing. Yeah. Sorry, like Baton Pass, every single time you come into the battle, you get 10% HP back. So you get a lot of value by just swapping in and out the Scaravolt. So I think it's not necessarily a bad swap at all. Like if Yhrem swaps, he doesn't lose that much tempo as maybe a different Tem would lose tempo.
Yeah, and well, since it's gonna get swapped out, Koenders can probably will read that and will do something else. So maybe he will just go into the Shween with like an uppercut or a P-jab and a double in on the Shween.
He decides to go for the helicopter kick. Yeah, maybe just wanting to get as much damage off on the Shween as like he can, while Shween decides to like buff up Adoro with Fluid Barrier. However, it does take a beefy chunk of damage by doing that.
Yeah, and that means Shween has to will die to another Helikick this turn. And that Mushuk is probably parrier, right? Because it didn't lose that much of stamina on the Helikick.
Oh, it might be. Like, usually parry, tireless Mushuks, they're built to have very little stamina, so they can overexert as fast as they can. While Koenders Mushuk, it does hold a double screen, as we've seen in the matchup screen. And that double screen might hint that it's parrier. However, I do not think it's like wise for Koenders maybe to stay in on the Mushuk, as like the Adorogoros can get quite a lot of damage onto it. Like it's low special defense, right?
Yeah. And as you said, there it swaps out, and also that Shuin has a Crystal Deluge now. So had a Crystal Deluge, so he could sleep the Mushuk at 3 prior, but.
I think what's it called, like Yhrem denigrate. Wow.
And that Gario hitting Adoro actually pushed off its evasion, so it got hurt. Well, a little bit. It got hit by the denigrate.
Yeah, this little amount of chip that Yhrem is dealing onto Gario, it might not seem like much at first, but later on maybe it might just put the Gario in range of like one soul shout from a buffed Magmud, right? So like all these numbers, it kind of like stack. Although if you're looking at pure number side, we do see that Koenders does have a slight HP advantage, but in terms of position, I think like if Yhrem can just keep that focus, he can like basically get those building blocks up. I think he has a very like solid game plan in that despite losing some HP at first, you're gaining buffs.
Oh, and that's a Hypno going into the mental type, so that doesn't sleep at all. That's quite a good read on Koenders' side. And a turbo attack dealing a respectable amount of damage. So Koenders' team still excuse me. Koenders' team still staying healthy, while Yrem's team is taking a little bit of chip damage on all sides. But I don't know, like Scarsing having a little technical problem, will be back with us in a minute. So we see Shuin coming back out again. And a Faraday Cage killing it, probably. It will go down. Caraval using Electric Storm on that 2-wire. And that 2-wire is definitely going down on the ×4. And Adoro is still taking a respectable amount of damage. But the Denigrate will lower Scaravol's damage, and Toxic Skin dealing 12.5% damage. So that Scaravolt is taking quite some damage also. Alright, that's one on each side. There's Gario back again, and another Adoro. Adoro being the most played Tem on this tournament. Probably just because it's cute, right? Not because it's so strong, just because it's like a little baby dragon with floppy wings. Look at it. Yeah, that's totally... I mean, that's a perfect board for Koenders there. Like a Nadoro and a smiling Gario. They're just chilling. But they're still... There goes Mushuk. And Inner Spirit going on the Gario probably. Does it kill? Probably not. Still 48% damage, so... Someone played Time Wizard. Yeah, and that's a double in, killing the Gario before the Gario manages to get a hit off on the Scaravolt, so... That's pretty good value for Yhrem there. Koenders being down 2 Temps now.
As we do see, like a few turns ago, we were up on Koenders' side in terms of HP, but now we just have 2 Temps that just went down. Wow, what a huge turn.
Yeah, huge turn indeed. And there we see a shiny bird.
A Luma token. Here's a funny story. Koenders Naga, it's a Luma Naga. It's one of the rarest Tems in the game. He just found that today, and we do see a double up going into the Scarable and just finishing it off. Adoroboros going for the Denigrate. What a big Denigrate. The minus special attack on the token and the super effective hit on the Mushuk. However, it does not do as much as a normal Denigrate might have done to Mushuk. That is a very bulky kind of Mushuk, right?
Yep, that double screen and probably quite some investment in special defense.
And the double, yeah, you're right. However, despite all of that, will it be enough for Koenders to like
that focus? I don't know. That focus is still looking pretty threatening.
Yeah, and like focus again, you have to just kind of focus on it, because if you just leave it with a bit of chip, it will keep regenerating that over and over and over. Adoroboros, I feel like, has a lot of potential here. However, it is a bit low, but it does like resist quite a lot of hits from like Magma, right? And as well as the high special defense. Look, it barely took like a very small amount from that Denigrate to get the nutrition bar, making that like almost negligible damage. However, Denigrate being such a good utility move, lowering the special attack makes it so it always has value no matter what.
Yeah, that those special attack, -1 special attacks starts stacking up. So we see that token is not dealing a lot of damage anymore. And that focus just probably going back to 10% again. Yep, there we see it.
It's just like Yhrem kind of has a slow train that needs a bit to start getting going, but when it starts and it goes at full speed, like you can't really touch his team. Like that Magma just took like a Denigrate there, right? It barely did not even come close to killing it. While the token has been basically like just barely denting at like the health of like the other Tems on Yrem's side. These Denigrates really just stacking up in terms of damage and debuffs, making it look pretty difficult for the side of Koenders.
Yeah, because now he's down to 1.5 Tem. Oh, and there, yep, he saw it too. There's a concession, because there would be no way Koenders could win against that Adoroboros in the back.
Yeah, that was like Yhrem at first, it was looking a bit slow, and then he suddenly got going at full speed with all of the buffs, all of the debuffs, and in the end, Koenders kind of just fell apart.
Yeah, and we see they already went for the second game. They have no time to lose.
They are ready to go back in it. They have an active idea on what to do, so maybe let's head back to the game.
Yep. Well, will players change their strategy for that second game? Because what could have gone better on both sides? We see the Chimerian instantly banned again for Yhrem, and same bans as first game.
Maybe I think Koenders might want to change a few things up compared to game 1. Like, I believe at first it was fine, but in the end, like as things start to run out of stamina and you kind of get those Denigrate off, things like game plan for Koenders kind of just like slows down and like starts to like break down, right? So he needs to avoid that and like make sure that his leads here are more aggressive maybe this time. So he does go for the Scarable Adoroboros, which it does leave Chimerian very free right now. The Chimerian, it might take 4 times damage from a Scarable, but Scarable's only fire moves on turn 1 is Embers, and that does not knock down Chimerian at turn 1. Not to mention the Garyu covers the Chimerian quite well there. So we it's like the momentum is already on the side of Koenders, starting from the pick ban. However, I think same with like last round, right? Yhrem had like a slower first turn where he had to swap out Scarable. However, in the end, he did come back. So I think he's trying to do a similar thing, except I think Koenders has learned from the first game to try just keep a better momentum, right? Instead of maybe like a different like Mushuk, he's trying to leave the Chimerian.
Yep, and we see Naga being let on the bank. So that will make quite some viewers happy. Naga not being taken into the game.
Naga is a very 50-50 Tem. It has such a good matchup into aggressive teams, but it also suffers very hard into like more slower, bulkier teams, like what Yhrem has brought. So I think it might be a wise decision for Koenders to not pick up that Nagas. As we go into the first turn, let's see what the players have in mind.
Yeah, because, well, that Scaravolt is probably gonna swap out again. So that Shumurian is, well, we can maybe see a double in on the Adoro.
Yeah, the Crystal Plume Gatling probably hits the Adoro very hard on its physical side, which is like one of the lower on the side of Temtem. But we do see a swap out of the Adoro. Is this a double swap?
Oh, maybe Yhrem just went. Yeah, you're gonna hit my Adoro, so I'm staying with my Scaravolt, and I dare you to hit the Scaravolt, but Koenders does. And down goes the Scaravolt without killing a Chimurian, so that momentum you were talking about on Koenders' side is already starting to roll.
Yeah, and you're right, like that Chimurian, although it is low HP, right, it's usually a lot faster than most of the Tems that are usually on Yrem's side. Like Calibus, one of the slowest Tems. Adoraboros usually is not ran with much speed, so the only things you could see that could defeat the Chimurian before it can move might be Shireen, and because of that, Koenders decides to move it out into the Mushuk that adequately tanks that water cannon without any of the ticks.
Yep, and there we see a Strangle from the Calibus. So the Mushuk is not playing next turn. But
it is tireless.
It's tireless. Oh
wow.
My.
That was perfectly read. Oh my. Wow.
Oh my. and I thought that was a parrier because of how bulky it was, but no. Oh yeah, man, that's
Tireless is such a valuable trait because you don't OX, right? You can easily tank Strangles it. Even on bulkier Mushuks, you still have a lot of value going. Like Tireless Mushuk, now it's not overexerted and it has +2 attack. But as you said last game, that Shireen can Crystal Deluge that Mushuk.
Yeah, so Mushuk will not be a problem just yet, but it didn't do a lot of damage, right? So that Mushuk is still online with this +2 attack, and that's forced swap on Yrem's side. So now, well, we see Garyu getting a little low on stamina, so that's pretty good, but there's already like one Tem down on Yrem's side and quite some chip damage on all of his Tems. So, and Koenders only has basically Chimurian damage, but not dead. So, as I said earlier, like as long as you're alive, you can just hit the opponent, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? People are talking about how Koenders clayballed the Guardian slot, like the one where Pocus is now. And here's the thing, right? Maybe Koenders was expecting Mushuk to swap out, like Mushuk to kill defeat the Shireen there, and that's why he could playball. But in the end, he got deluged and put to sleep. Now we do see the 2-wire come in and knock off the sleep from Crystal Deluge.
Yeah, that Koenders team is pretty. I mean, the synergies are quite effective on Koenders' side, like that. That Deluge being not as effective as it should be, and
one of the issues with Deluge is that it gives you isolate as well. While this is quite useful, a lot of the times it helps Tems like 2-wire and Token knock off that Deluge. However, Yhrem decides to go for it again, just Deluge again, while Koenders this time reads the Deluge and swaps it out. But wakes up Garyu again.
Oh, okay, so probably Yhrem thinking, okay, that Mushuk is gonna stay in, and I'm gonna +3 prio sleep it, then it's gonna act, and then my Pocus is gonna move, so... But no, he swapped it out, and...
He also would remove the neutralize, right, if the Mushuk stayed in, so the Beta Burst would hit 2 times. Yep. However, Koenders just reads that. However, like it's not totally over yet, right? Like Pocus is +3/+3, like defense and special defense. This is
Yeah.
a lot of bulk for a Tem that can constantly regenerate HP. And like Mushrik, while it is +2 attack, what can it do to a Adoroboros or a Pocus that's like that bulked up? And Calibus, the highest defense stat Tem in this game.
Yeah, but I don't know. In my opinion, is that a Hypno on? Oh,
Wow, another like Koenders. Oh my god.
Koenders reading the Yhrem almost every turn. Man, that must be like pretty hard on Yhrem's side. I don't know. Like the focus is building up, but will it be enough?
That clay ball, by the way, also guarantees that the Chimerian outspeeds the Pocus, because Pocus can have a quite high speed stat. However, as this is probably a bulky Pocus, while it might still be slow, it could still outspeed the Chimerian and maybe kill it. But because of this clay ball, it means the Chimerian outspeeds the Pocus.
Yeah, because Pocus's base speed is 204 and Chimerian's is 202.
Exactly.
And since Koenders is running a Naga team, that's Chimerian is probably like not speed invested at all. So
like bulky Chimerians are right now have a lot of value.
Yeah.
So I think it might be quite a defense invested HP token without much speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or reduce the denigrate onto the Pocus. While you can rack up as much defense as you want, if your special attack gets hit, you're not going to be doing much like damage, right? You're not going to have a lot of impact on this game. So I think it's like Koenders knows that Pocus has a lot of like HP, and instead of trying to like, well, he is trying to like defeat it at the same time, but he's also trying to cripple it. So it's not that like threatening onto his team. However, Yhrem swaps the Pocus out into the Adoro, so the toxic skin kills the Garrier without Yhrem having to attack it at all there.
Yep, and just resting, chilling on the Calibus. So yeah, that's at least one Tem down on Koenders' side. So it's like you said, like not over, but that Pocus, yeah, it's Koenders is basically saying, sure, you can build a wall, but at one point you're gonna have to come out of your house and actually hit me, because I'm still standing there and I'm hitting your wall. So
and here's the thing, right? You might have archers on top of that wall, but you're like taking away like the arrows slowly but all these denigrates that are being thrown onto the side of Yhrem.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
They also return the favor somewhat with like the denigrates from Yhrem. However, 2-wire is quite a bit less affected by the denigrates compared to the side of Yhrem, whose major damaging option is the special attackers of Adoroboros and Pocus.
Yeah, and I always see the Koenders' Adoro being a 94 with that nut bar still.
Oh,
and Yrem's side is like all of his stems are under 50%.
And that's like in range of a Chimerian like Crystal Plume Gatling. That's like the kind of end game that Koenders is looking for. This is like, if you look at the score, like the board, right, of all the stats, you can see how much of a battle attrition this is.
Yeah, this is. And 2-wire not going down.
The minus special attacks, they're paying off slowly but surely. While the turbo attack, unaffected by the denigrate, chunks a lot from the Adoro, having Koenders' own Adoroboros finish up Yrem's one with a beta burst, leaving Yhrem only with the final 2 Tems.
And there's the concession. Yeah, that was too hard to come back from. So Koenders takes this 2-0. A pretty fast 2-0, I must say. And
I believe it's a 1-1. It's actually not a 2-0. Yhrem won the first one.
Oh my god. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I understand, right? This is the first 1-1 you've seen all day. Like, all the games in the past, they've all been 2-0s.
Right. My brain just fried. It's too hot here.
But we do see Koenders and Yhrem back into pick ban. Will they maybe try some things a bit different this time, or will they like keep doing the same exact kind of pick ban that they were doing before?
Yeah, but even with like even if the pick bans like went similar, the end result was different. So we see Yhrem switching his strategy, like Koenders still banning Chimerian, and Yhrem deciding, yeah, you can have that Turok, but I don't want to see that Adoraboros in your opener again. I'm sick of it.
And here, like Yhrem, instead of banning the Turok as normal, he bans the Chimerian, which is fair. That Chimerian was very threatening to like a lot of things on Yhrem's side. The Pocus and the Doroboros, and maybe he just doesn't want to deal with it.
Okay, yeah, and now we see a very different opener from Koenders. Like we are seeing the negates coming out, and the Deceit Aura negates with a Turok. Well, that Stoneball is going to be 3 prio, basically, and
Yeah.
it's gonna hurt.
But here's the thing, right? Honestly, I do not like this Nagai's pick by Koenders. Maybe it was to cover up for like a Magnet pick to like go against the Turok. But this Nagai's, as I said, is not very threatening into the side of Yhrem. But as Nagai's, one of its core strengths is that it can always come back later. It can swap out and it can come back on a board where everything is faster than it and it just cleans up. So either that's what Koenders is trying to go for, or maybe just like head front damage, because that's another thing Nagai is strong at.
Yeah, because I mean, since it doesn't need speed, because it basically prints its own speed, it can just invest in a full special attack and some bulk, and like, yeah, it can just stay in and do damage. But on Pocus and the Calibis, I'm not sure it will do a lot of damage.
Yeah, these are very bulky Tems, right? Calibus, really high defense stats, and in general, it's always built to tank. It's, I would say, the tankiest Temtem in Temtem. While Pocus is like a self-regenerating monster. So we'll see that Koenders decides to aim down the Pocus first before it can get any of his building blocks.
Yeah, we're focusing immediately the castle, and well, before Yhrem can actually retreat into his castle, we're breaking it down. And well, the counterattack is on Yrem's side is not that effective, because Turk taking more than 50%, okay, but now you can't double in this turn because a Turk is going first and is killing your Pocus.
Yeah, you have like a Stone Ball, a Side Surge, both can underspeed the Pocus is denigrate if it chooses to go for that. So you might be seeing Yhrem having to swap out here, maybe into Adoraboros perhaps, but that does not leave Yhrem with that grade of a board, right? Because you have a Turok into Adoraboros, but at the same time, it is under Deceit Aura, where Adoraboros might be faster than Turok. So that's not necessarily a good thing for Koenders, is it?
Yeah, and I was about to say, because you can just read the swap and Hypno the Calibis, and that's exactly what Yhrem did. It was like, yeah, you're probably gonna expect the swap out, so you're gonna I'm betting on you hypnotizing the Calibis and not doubling on the Pocus.
And because of that, it just lives, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of like, it might be huge for Yhrem, as now Koenders is forced to maybe even overexert for another Stone Ball, right?
Yeah, because, well, maybe he will swap out this turn, but
yeah, I think it might be just a turn to swap it out. You're right, the Scarable is looking pretty scary, and you really want to at least have the option of Turok there to threaten the Scarable, right? So maybe it's Turok swap, and while Nagai's cleans up whatever is on the Pocus slot.
But yeah, that's a swap out. Koenders not risking it.
He just wants to get the, like, save it for later. Yhrem has 2 Toxics and a Tem that's 4 times weak to Earth. So I think there's a pretty good basis to saving that Turok right there. It does swap into the Adoraboros, which matches decently into the Calibis on Yrem's side. Or that does mean that's a very... I'm not sure if this is a free Garibaldi entry here, right? Because Nagais has one last turn of Deceit Aura up, and do you know what move Nagais has up right now?
Yeah, but that isn't. Do you think that Scaravolde is maybe built to underspeed Naga?
If it is, that might be huge. A lot of Temtems like Scarabolt and Calibus that are like aimed to defeat Nagais, they're often like speed, like undersped, in order to like defeat the Nagais before it moves with Nagais Fury. And if that is how the Scarabolt is built, then it would be very big for the side of Yhrem. However, a lot of the times these Scarabolts do not want to be under like sped by Nagais, right? They also want to outspeed the Gyarios in the metagame, which
Yeah,
they're pretty good into the Scarabolts.
Yeah, that's true. And we saw it actually outspeed the. Now that you mentioned it, we saw the Scaravolde outspeed the Gyario in game 1, I believe. So
exactly,
it's probably it's like you say, not speed corrupt or whatever you call it to underspeed Naga.
Exactly, but like again, it's not that big of a deal if you cannot take the Naga's Fury on Scarabolt, right? You get another baton pass later on because you swap it back out. While Shireen and Adorbros and even Calibus, these guys all just take Nagais for breakfast. Like Naga's Fury, it's nothing to them.
Yeah. Yeah, now Naga is overexerted. Is just sitting there. Last turn of Isidora, I believe.
Oh, he does swap it out. Maybe keeping it in the back as a sacrificial lamb while the 2-bar comes in. Maybe so if Koenders decides to use Denigrate, it hits the Shireen decently hard.
Yeah, and there we see the speed arrow because, well, there are two Adoros on the field.
They're both like very minimal speed invest, so basically speed tie. And as there is no RNG in Temtem, there is a way to decide who will go first. As Yhrem does go first, he gets a bit extra damage onto Koenders before he gets his own special attack decrease. As the Shireen did leave, the Ouroboros no longer has Guardian protecting it from stat drops. So that does make it so the Adora is going to maybe not hurt as much as it would before.
Yeah. And now, looking at what there's in the back, Koenders, I mean, okay, the Turk and the Nagase are low, but there's still a full life Mushuk in the back.
Yeah, then you have the Mushuk, right? And the Mushuk deals quite well into Calibus because Calibus cannot hit Mushuk. It also easily just takes down Shireen with its melee moves, right? And Scarabolt, we've seen how bulky that Mushuk is, so it might have trouble killing that Mushuk. You kind of want this Adoro to maybe stay alive for the Mushuk. As we did see, it's tireless as well, right? So that Mushuk, it can get setting up. Like, it's gonna get momentum and it can sweep. So that's maybe one thing that Koenders wants to keep in mind, while Yhrem really wants to actively avoid. Hence why, maybe that's why he swapped out Adorbros there into Scarabolt, but that Faraday cage with synergy is also going to be huge. Oh no, Guardian!
Shireen keeping Scarabolt from getting poisoned, so keeping Scarabolt pretty healthy because that poison would have been that's 2 ticks of poison, right? So that's 25 damage.
That would be very impactful onto that Scarabolt, but that Shireen blocks it all, and this Scarabolt has like 2 things that is staring down, wanting to take out. That 2-bar is going to die from 1 Thunder Strike or Electric if it does not swap out. While the Adoraboros, it does take it quite well. It definitely does not appreciate an electric move on it.
Yeah, and as we saw, the Scarabolt has E-Storm, right? So he's probably clicking this turn. And yeah, as you said, there's the Nagase sacrificial lamb for the Scarabolt.
And that's like the exact situation that Koenders was keeping that Nagase for. Just to have that one turn where it's just like you can sacrifice something without anything else taking damage in the back, right? We do see the Mushuk swap come in as well.
Yeah, and that Mushuk's still taking 26% on the Electric Storm, so definitely it might be bulky, but it will take a beating from Scarabolt.
Yeah, like maybe just like it will take a few more hits, but that doesn't make it so like, it's still taking a lot of hits, right? If it gets like maybe another Thunderstrike or a Fire Tornado onto the Mushuk, then that Mushuk could be in range of a Beta Burst or a Denigrate from the Adoraboros.
Yeah.
We see Koenders go back into his own Adoraboros, maybe wanting to avoid the damage, like by going for the Denigrates, right? And while Yhrem, again, like last game, you've seen this move, and it's pulled a lot of value for Yhrem, and I think it's going to continue doing so this game as well.
Yeah, and I was indeed expecting that Crystal Deluge. So, as you said, like the Scaravault will once again. Oh, and Misogi.
Misogi, oh no! So Misogi is a move that resets the stats of whatever it clicks in on, right? And that would be very impactful if it was on Adoro, if it was on Scarable, but it's now on the Adoro, and the Adoro was minus special attack, so it just increases special attack of Adoro.
Yeah, you just spent one turn giving +1 special attack to your opponent's Adoro. That was a pretty good read on Yhrem's side, or maybe a little greedy on Koenders' side.
I would say it's quite a bit of greed on Koenders' side. Like, you've seen that Crystal Deluge come in and out, and you kind of should have expected that. You know what would have been kind of cool? Maybe a Misogi onto like the Mushuk.
Yeah, the Mushuk. Yeah.
I'm not sure if it provides the immune anymore, but that would knock the sleep off, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That definitely is a hidden tech Koenders like kept in the secret. You never see Misogi Adoraboros, but you see it today, and it's exposed. So now Yhrem is aware that it exists, and will maybe keep an eye for it, like eye out for it, right?
Yeah, but will you have to? Because Koenders lost quite some momentum on that play. Now, I mean, Koenders was ahead in at the start of the game, but now it looks like he's on the back foot, and he has to pull something out of his hat.
Yeah,
or else will just get valued and outgrinded by this Baton Pass Scaravolt.
Again, like this battle of attrition. Like +6 defense, +6 special defense.
That is not taking any damage at all.
And it's also in a board to a 2-bar, so after this turn, it will also just like take a lot of damage from like any electric moves. Not to mention Guardian blocking that Denigrate for the Scaravolt. The Scaravolt does not take any special attack debuffs. So like Yhrem is right now playing it perfectly, just keeping his Tems as high HP, high defense as possible, while also making it so like he's slowly chipping into the side of Koenders. Like, look at that Mushuk. It was 100% a few turns ago, and now look at it.
Yeah, and also that Misogi being on 2 hold means you can only do it every 3 turns. So this turn the Adora doesn't have it up. So that means the Scaravolt is just free to E-Storm into Koenders' team and delete basically. Oh no, they're nullified. Never mind.
Yeah,
so they're not taking the ×4 and ×2 damage, but they're probably still taking some damage.
Yeah, like 2-Bar, as E said it in a few games ago, it's a very lackluster Tem in terms of stats. So it does not really appreciate, a lot of hits even while neutralized. I think it's somewhat like a balancing factor to how possibly game-changing its trade is. We do see an Electric Storm come out and does not deal as much damage to like the Adoro, while the Adoro like threatens the Scarable even more with just like the trait Toxic Skin. So it's not like you might be +6 defense, +6 special defense, but you're taking percentage HP, and that's gonna penetrate through all the defense buffs, and it's just gonna hurt Scarable even more. And now Koenders has a lot of options on his hand, right? He could go for a Faraday Cage, and that would just put the Scarable into death range. So maybe Yhrem might have to like predict this and see if he has to swap that Scarable out, if he doesn't want it to like go down just yet, or maybe swap Shreen back in. But no, decides to stay in with the Scarable. 2-Bar goes for the Faraday Cage, puts it in range for that Toxic Takes.
Yep, and he sacrifices it to Wire for it, but that's it rested.
Oh no. Oh no,
my.
Maybe he doesn't see the Faraday Cage coming. Maybe he was expecting something else. like a swap from the 2R, right? That could have been a thing. But no, he decides to just rest. I feel like that maybe was not the right play.
Yeah,
Disconnection,
why did he
perhaps?
rest? Did I miss something? Like, what am I not getting here?
There's
Why
a
aren't you
chance
picking a
that
move?
if Yhrem has disconnected, we might have to remake this game until this certain point. However, it doesn't look like that's the case with how the timers are going, and at
Maybe
this
just
rate,
ran out of time.
yeah, that's also very true. Like the timers, they were taking, and as these like top players, they take their time in making the decisions, and unfortunately, it just took too long. However, this Calibus lives barely on a sliver of HP. That could actually be very huge for the side of Koenders. That's actually very huge.
Yeah, because now that means the Calibus has to stay. Well, has to stay one more turn, so that's not a free swap for
But-
Yhrem. And
yeah,
now
above all,
it will
though-
just die to whatever spread move
Yeah, but
Koenders
above
is.
all, right? Like Koenders needed that Turok alive to take on this Adora Burrows very reliably, right?
Mhm.
And not having it for the Adora Burrows could still put a bit of like momentum into the side of Yhrem. However, right now, honestly, I think that play right there, having the Calibus live on 1 HP, that's literally
Yeah.
like 1 or 2 HP. It
That's
makes
1
it
HP for
so
sure.
that Adora Boros has like no debuffs, right? Because Koenders removed it. So now a Beta Burst might just go on and just take that Mushuk out.
Yeah, and that's Calibus. Well, it has 1 HP, so it can still threaten to do moves like strangle something or just hit an attack
Well,
move. But
Okay, I thought we would see a helicopter kick going on the side of Koenders, right? But no, we just saw a turbo choreography just to put his own Adoro faster than that Adoro burst on Yrem's side, maybe even to outspeed the Shureen.
yeah, and we saw a speed arrow being used. I think that was Calibus being speed tied with the +2 Adora on its water blade.
Another thing is, right, that turbo choreography was like a huge move for the side of Koenders. It was a must because that Shureen can Crystal Deluge the Mushuk right now, and the Mushuk doesn't outspeed like the Shureen. It could be game over. With that turbo choreography, it's now a game of speed, but the Shureen still goes first. Oh my god. No. Oh no.
But yeah, 3 Prio,
yeah,
sweep move.
Prio, it's a
No!
fast Shureen. He wakes it up, but it's not
Yeah.
fast enough. I'm not sure if that was the right play. Oh no. I
he
feel like
messed
you
up
have
his
Virulent
speed.
Gust. You could have aimed it into the Shureen maybe. That could have been a play, but no, he miscalcs the speed. I think that was just like a very it was unfortunate, but as you like with the -2 special attack of that Doro, it probably was not killing the Shureen either with the Virulent Gust, right? And that just
Yeah.
meant Adoro had more time to like get set up with the Shureen. And
Yes,
it just
you
makes
yeah, see all the damage that Adoro just did on the Shween, like with its Disintegrate.
that was like the one play. It was kind of like a hope. Koenders just kind of had to hope to just defeat, like just somehow under speed and like with the Mushuk and get it woken up or outspeed the Shureen, but it unfortunately did not go through. And it looks like Yhrem will be picking up this best of 3 set. Wow, what an amazing set!
That was that, yeah, and we see this Adoro versus Adoro finish is well decided because we see a -3 Adoro against a buffed up Adoro, and there's the win for Yhrem.
I think this was a very good example at just a very slow but steady battle of attrition. Just amazing game played by Koenders and Yhrem. In the first game, like Yhrem, he had his game plan and it was working the way he wanted it to. In the second game, it was a full-on just almost stall kind of battle. But in the end, Koenders came through with like the higher HP, higher amount of Tems. In the third game, Yhrem just pushed it one step further with all of those Guardians and unfortunate Koenders Misogi
Yeah, that Misogi.
That was very unfortunate for the side of
Yeah. Like you said, it's like a battle of attrition, and every turn counts, because when you do something like that Misogi, you're basically giving your opponent a free turn, and when you're so close in terms of HP and chip damage and everything, basically you losing one turn is pretty hard.
Yeah, and like you don't realize it, but all of these turns that you might have very little HP loss, but like these HP losses, these debuffs, these buffs, they stack on top of each other, and you can't lose your mind throughout this battle. And eventually, if you misplay even one turn, as you said, it could just like lead you straight to just like a downward spiral in terms of momentum. And that's like kind of how this battle work. Like Tamers who have the momentum kind of push through and eventually win the game. Now we will be moving on to the post-game analyst. I believe East and B Flattened will be back at it again. Amazing casters, and I hope you're excited to see. Another thing, just very last thing, we do have Talwin winning against Funky How, beating Funky How in a best of 3, 2-1. Talwin is still in the game. Unfortunate for Funky How. The favorites of our other two casters, Gagworm and Jade Oregon, will not see more action in this inter-regional. So now to you, East and B Flattened.
Oh, we're muted.
What
We're
a match
muted.
that we had
We're
there.
back.
We're back. What a match that we had there. There was a lot of back and forth throughout the entire set, and it was a very entertaining set too. Game one, we had Koenders out with all the hard reads. There was a lot of things like swapping into his mental Tems on Hypnosis turn. The Strangle on the Mashuk was huge. Game number 3 is where things kind of fell apart. I don't necessarily agree with the Naga pick into the opener. Naga didn't really seem too threatening for Yhrem there, and I also think he undervalued how Turok could have won the endgame for him there and overvalued 2-Wire a little bit too much by swapping it out. I think it was 3 or 4 times in a row, actually.
Yeah, I mean, for all those people at home who have been crying for Deceit Aura nerfs for like 7 years now, that is a textbook Game 3 on how to handle a first pick from Yhrem. Doesn't hit it, lets it exhaust itself, let it runs itself out of gas, sets up in front of it using the Court Shield, using the Shween and the Adoraboros, lets it whiff its Fury, lets it overexert, and then from there, Yhrem did a really good job of like piloting towards that end game. Unfortunate that he ran out of time on one of the turns, but the way that he played, Yhrem's team is so fascinating. It's so interesting. Like, even from when he first started playing in the TemCS, his teams take advantage of swaps better than almost anyone in the tournament right now. He does a great job of positioning his Crystal Deluge, which is a crazy move, and he's like, Cryo Sleep is so powerful, and he's leveraging that with the Adoro and Poké swaps, getting the BP value on the Scarable, getting the Court Shield value on things that swap in. Yhrem controls a slot, gets something else in. He strangles a slot, he controls it, he gets something else in. And it's like this, like, you know those doors in hotels that just revolve constantly when you go in them? That's like kind of what he's doing, and he puts people in the spin cycle. And like, thankfully for him, he was able to do it that game in Game 3.
It's funny how you mentioned Scarable, because Scara was kind of the talk of that Game 3. As soon as that Turok was in range of getting killed by anything, like even a Calibus Waterblade, for example, that Scarable is free to play throughout the entire match, and he was just court shielding after court shielding, and it just allows Scara to play for free. Once those Earths are off the field, once the Naga is taken care of at a gas, like you mentioned, that Scara just reigns free and is completely terrorizing the board. The Thunderstrike, the Meteor Swarms, the Electric Storms, whatever it needs to do, that Scara is there, and it's going to be pushing Koenders, or whichever opponent it is, to the brink. It's going to push them to the limits.
Yeah, I mean, it should be said that Koenders, it's not like like lost game 3 very cleanly. Like he was like
Yeah,
2
it was
HP
very,
on
very
2
close.
HP on a Calibus away from winning the game, right? So it's like it's not like that's a clear outplay or anything like that. But games like these are so interesting to me because they show how like you'll hear if you go into like a Discord or something like that, or you browse Reddit, people talk about how everybody always it's just 2 playstyles: is aggro or is bulky aggro. And this was a great game where so many of these Tems are similar, so many of these teams are built similar, but Koenders and Yhrem, you can very clearly see, have a very distinctly different playstyles. They play things differently. Koenders is all about maintaining advantage and getting the doubles in. And Yhrem is all about creating that space through swaps and abusing Crystal Deluge to his benefit. Right? Like, these are both teams that if you ask the average person, they'd be like, oh, it's just bulky mid-range, man. But they're completely different in how they operate. And like that is such one of my favorite things about this game is that it's so deep and it's so complex. And this series was a masterclass in like how deep and how fun Temtem can be as a game.
Like you were mentioning, the Tems were similar. I think the only thing that was similar between them was Denigrate. That was it. Everything else was completely unique and creative on both of their teams, and they pilot them very, very well. You can tell they're very comfortable with their teams.
Yeah, it was the Misogi tech was also very interesting to see from Koenders. I do know that there are other players who play Adoraboros who, like, I was a big Misogi on Mentals tech. I was playing it on Aohi before, so I definitely respect it. It's like a super strong choice in the right circumstances, and Scaravolt is one of the things that it like uniquely can deal with pretty well. It is my understanding that it still removes positive buffs if Misogi is not synergied. Like the synergy Misogi only clears negative buffs, but the unsynergized one still clears the positive ones. It's a little bit confusing, but you can clearly see what Koenders was trying to go for there. And it's weird because like I don't think Yhrem was like, oh, he's about to Misogi me, I'd better leave. It was just like, I want to get 10% more on my baton pass, I'm going to swap out. And that ended up being exactly what he needed to dodge the Misogi.
I don't know if the game would have went different if the Misogi hit the Scaravolt. I think it would have went more in favor in Koenders' side if that Scaro was not buffed with that half full. It would have like completely shifted the tides. But yeah, like you were saying, you just wanted to get more value out of the baton pass. I don't think anybody saw the Misogi. And at the very like winding turns, I don't think anybody saw the side swipe to wake up the Mashuk there either. So 2 really interesting plays. One of them was calculated, and the other one was a value on baton pass that just ended up working in Rem's favor.
Yeah, it should be said also that side hit at the end of the game, Koenders kind of had to do that, not for that turn, but for the next turn. Like, his really only way to win at that point is that Yhrem deluges Mashuk and then beta bursts Adoro and ignores the Mashuk after it's been deluged. Like, if Yhrem assumes that he's going to get 2 turns of sleep, the side hit is the only way Koenders has back into the game at that point. So it's not like it was an unreasonable play to make. Still, like, a very strong play. Just Yhrem really just dialed in on destroying the the Mashuk that turn, and that's what he needed to do to win the game. So very well piloted from both players. But yeah, we've had some really good games so far. I think we're going to go to a break here, and then we are headed to our next set as we see Cinder Plat versus Anhilacho. So it should be exciting.